What is going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good day whenever it is you're watching this. Actually, you're probably just watching on a Wednesday because the tournament starts tomorrow. So, BobbyFi and Eric Sheethaber, we're going to be talking through the Travelers Championship. I've done a little extra research this time. It was a really, last week was crazy in all kinds of ways, and I thought I was just going to have like a bloodbath of a golf week, and somehow ended up making money thanks to a very weird Sunday. So hopefully I don't need to wait so long again, because we're not going to have this is we don't have any cuts or anything, so we're going to have to figure this thing out. And I guess that Sheets, I'll turn it over to you off the big baseball win. Are you going to turn it into some golf winnings, or what are your overall thoughts on this before we get into
So when you have a no cut event, and this is something we talk about a lot, that usually really favors the stars and scrubs builds, especially when you have this environment now where one guy is going to project like 10 points higher than everybody else, that being Scotty Scheffler. The question always comes down to, in these types of situations, whether you can afford them or not, and usually to afford them, you need to play lower priced guys. And in normal cut events, that becomes very risky because lower priced guys don't make the cut as often as they should, as you'd like them to.
Right.
But when you have no cut events, you don't have to worry about that. So that's why the majority of the builds just wind up being these stars and scrubs type builds. Now what I have found over the course of the years is that it's tempting, us being DFS players, to say, you know what, if everybody's going to play stars and scrubs type builds, maybe we should kind of force in the balance stuff. But that from what I've seen, that really is asking for trouble. Like if you get there organically, like, great. But if you do stuff like, say, max 10% Scheffler, or max, 10% guys under 6K or whatever it is, you know what I mean? That is asking for it. But with that said, I will say that my initial, and we'll get there, like my initial runs are not that many Schefflers relative to what I could have been.
Right.
And part of that, and we'll get to it, is because I think the Sims are really working overtime. For me at least, because when I ran, I guess I'm getting right to it, right? So when I ran my first set of builds with just rating by Sabre score, I was getting 98% Scheffler. Okay, but then when I applied the Sims or whatever, I'm getting much less. So you see kind of an interesting dynamic there. The other thing I will mention before we go into the tier by tier is that if you do look at like my projections and sort by the normal metrics, like either point per dollar or whatever, it's going to look really awkward in all these no-cut events, because for the reasons I just kind of mentioned, like all of the best point per dollar plays are going to be the low salary guys, like all the time. Okay. Right. That's the way it works. And like, for example, like on a point per dollar basis, I have Scheffler rated like 60th. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that you don't play him, because you still need all those raw points, So those are the things I would I guess touch on before we get into this. Now you did a little extra research. The only thing that I took from the fundamental research was that it's a course that favors accuracy and not as much distance. Aside from that, what other stuff do you have before we get right into the
accuracy over distance? That's sort of the main one for me, and a little bit of course history stuff that I put in. There's some low owned guys that, like Tom Kim, won this tournament last year, for example. Mm-hmm. Another guy I really like, we'll get into in a little bit, Tom Hoge, who finished, I believe, third. I think Tom Kim won in the playoff against Scotty. Yeah, it's tough with this because Scotty should probably be the week where he's like 15K, not last week. Mm-hmm. Although we did have the 5K guys, but it's just so like there's so many routes where he doesn't need to win to make the optimal lineup. And even last week where it felt like he struggled the whole week, he ended up tied for 8th.
Yeah, I talk more about that because it's a weird dynamic in golf. I always was under the impression you would think that especially if a guy's like really expensive, that at the very least he would like need to win for you to. But that's just not the case. Do you know why is that?
Well, it's because all the guys last week who got there were all cheaper. So unless somebody was leaving
Right.
10,000 on the table,
Right.
you couldn't have got there, without it.
Yeah.
And I actually tightened up I usually with golf spread out my minimum salary because I still do the min maxes, but I literally don't care about leaving money on the table. I care a little bit more this week.
Okay.
Because I think that, you got all 4 rounds out of everybody. So it's just something to, think about. And these exposures were after a build. I still have changed a lot of things since I did this. But right now I'm splitting Goldie's projection with Sabersims and then splitting the ownership as well. Anyway, the top tier, I guess I'll start first on this one. I'll be below the field on Scotty because I do think he ends up especially in higher buy-ins or single entry, he's going to be like 50 to 60, 75, maybe even in some of the single entries. And look, I think something really did happen to Rory, and there's something that happens when you finally hit that, after going through a divorce last year and everything like that, and then getting back together, all the things, and then finally reaching that pinnacle that sort of has plagued your career for the last 11 years. I think it's like he's looking at the world differently. And I mean, it's really strange, even his relationship with the media, some of the stuff he was saying. So I do think that there's something going on with him. Now, it doesn't mean he can't go out and win this tournament. And I think this ownership of 13, 14% is way low. I think he's going to end up way lower than that. I actually think it's going to be Scotty at a massive amount. Then people will play Xander and Morikawa. I don't think Rory's going to be played that much, actually. So I actually will probably have somewhere near, 10, 11% of Rory, but I might go out of my way to play him in some bigger buy-ins because I don't think people are going to do it. I'm still debating what I'm going to do.
There are 3 guys that I am looking at on my exposures right now that I just cannot live with getting as little as I am of these guys.
Yeah.
And one of them is Rory.
Yeah.
It's just so antithetical to the way I think about life for me to not play Rory. You know what I mean? Just so much narrative in here. You know what I mean? It just seems like the type that I just would fade so aggressively that I was just kind of hoping that I would get to him organically, but I'm just not. I'm getting 4% like Rory, and I just know that he's underowned. You know what I mean? I don't know by how much, but I just know that he shouldn't be. Whatever he is owned, it's going to be not enough. So and this is that this is not my style, but the 3 guys and we'll talk about all 3 of them at some point.
Okay.
That I'm going to be too low on. I'm going to have to just bump up higher. I'm just going to.
Yeah. I think it's fair, and it's by the way, he's still the second highest projected scoring golfer this week. I know it's a huge gap between him and Scotty, but it's kind of wild that even with all of this, that he's still projected as well as he does. And I just think people like the hand builders and stuff, people are just not going to play him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I actually like Xander the best from this range. Again, just in terms of being the most overweight the field, it's pretty hard to get overweight Scotty. I really like Xander. I think there's been some good signs. I don't think he's playing his best. And I really like, I do like Morikawa. I'll probably be over on the other 3 and under on Scotty is the way I'm looking at it. Even though, look, it's, again, you might be putting yourself up against it, but it's one golfer, it's one tournament. It's not like Scotty Scheffler has to, and by the way, if he comes in the top 5 or 6 in this one, if it goes a certain route, if the other top guys get there, you don't have to worry about it. I really just am betting on one of Morikawa, Xander, and Rory outscoring him enough, or even some of the guys beneath them, and or 2 of the guys beneath them. I think it's possible. So I'm going to play though. That's the way I'm playing it. Feels bad, but that's what it is. What it is.
Yeah, but I honestly think, and again, this is not projection based, so I don't know if any people want to hear this, but I think that Rory's going to be underowned, and I think the guy that's going to take too much money is Xander. I think that's my opinion, because it was obvious that he was the best of all these guys last week. He was very good in the last round or whatever it is. Yeah. And it's a little narrative coming around. It's like a perfect spot. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he's going to be, that he should be even higher on whatever, but I think he's going to be overplayed. That's my gut. relative to what he should be.
I actually thought it was going to be Morikawa. I'm a little surprised, to be honest.
I wouldn't be surprised about that either. Also, because Morikawa, he's a very accurate guy.
Yeah, he's just been a little bit off with the irons, and I think that's maybe playing into some of these projections and people's personal takes. So,
yeah.
But either way, that's what I'm doing. I really like that next group of guys. 9K to 10K range sheets. What do you like here?
I don't know why I feel like I'm in this matrix where I'm kind of feeling it right now.
Yeah.
But so I have sort of an opinion here.
Yeah.
So the guy who's going to show up, and he's showing up for me as well as just cranked up is in the ownership is Straka. Like I'm currently getting like 27% of him. And I guarantee, I haven't looked at like other content, but I'll bet you anything that he's like on everybody's top list.
Yeah.
Of who to play. So whatever he is in the flagship, he's gonna be jammed. I think. Which
people might be a little bit afraid about how like he literally shot like 750 over last week.
No, I get it, but like this is his more type of course and like the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But the guy that I'm just not going to accept my 3% ownership of right now that I'm getting is Aberg. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not allowing that. He's just too good. And he's the guy that I'm just not going to let go off at I would say low ownership, but lower the amount of ownership I'm having on him right now is just way too low. So I'm going to have to crank that up a little bit. So I would use like Aberg more than not maybe not more than Straka, but relative to the fields, like more than Straka from this range. Cantlay's a rough click, honestly, at 9,800 for me, as is Thomas. Although Rick had some decent things to say about Justin.
Yeah,
Thomas.
I don't usually like Thomas, and I like him.
Yeah, and listen, Burns fine, but I'm just not getting there.
Yeah, I guess this starts when we get into playing last week. How is it affecting you? And the only argument that I have for Burns is that people are sort of thinking that same way, and that's why Burns and Hovland are going to be lower owned than maybe they should be, just because they had a really long, rough, kind of hard to take week. It's got to be tough to be Sam Burns, but he is a pretty level-headed guy. But that's a rough tournament, and that was a rough way to lose it. Like.
Yep. Yeah.
Both between the not getting the relief, and I still can't believe they didn't give it to him. He was literally sitting in a puddle, and they gave it to everyone else. So I don't blame them for being a little chapped. And some people complained about him who had him in their lineups though. And I would like to know, like, I didn't see any lineups near the top that didn't have Sam Burns in it. So it's not like it affected you that much from a DFS purpose. So you don't really get to complain about it because I really don't think it mattered all that much. It's not like JJ Spawn was 2% owned. You needed both those guys to win anyway. I'm sort of probably just going to end up like a little below the field on Cantlay. I like your idea. I think that no matter what, you should have 10% of Oberg in any tournament anywhere in the world, just because he is the same capability level. Now, it's the consistency may not be the same, all that stuff, but I do think he's the most talented player below 10K. Justin Thomas, I actually think he's been solid here. I think that this is a very reasonable course for him. I'm happy to take a little bit of a stand and be overweight. I'm eating some of what I think will be the Straka chalk, although the current ownership is part of the reason I'm eating it. So we'll see where I end up with it once I rerun things a little later tonight. But I do think Straka is totally, if you tell me he's 10%, I think that's totally reasonable. It is a little weird though. He's 9,200. We haven't played him at that price as often. Anyway, and again, I can be overweight some of these guys because I'm underweight Scotty. So Burns, I'm underweight though. Hovland, I'll probably be right near the field. And the big one, I guess I'll wait till the 8K range to talk about the ones I'm taking bigger stands on.
Well, why don't we start with that? Why don't you start with the 8Ks?
I think this is perfect. I love that Fleetwood didn't play the weekend last week. He never is going to. He's never having like two rough ones in a row. I really, really like Fleetwood. I think this course sets up perfectly for him. Accuracy over distance, and he's actually fine on any kind of course. He's probably one of the more well-rounded golfers. You just got to start making some of these putts from 7 to 20 feet at some point. At some of them, they don't need to make that many of them, just a couple of them, and this whole life would be different. But I love Fleetwood in this range, and I was right with the field last week. He was not one of my top 6 plays when we do our game later. I'm pretty sure he's going to be this week. He's one of my favorite plays on the week. Love Russell Henley here. Probably didn't notice that he was absolutely awesome last week. I don't think that people really paid that much attention. The way that he sets up, I actually like McIntyre, but I don't think I'm going to get to the field with him just because, again, it was a long weekend for those guys. I'm not doing the JJ Spawn thing back to back, and it's not because of the back to back. It's just I just don't. That's a whole emotional different thing I don't want to go down. But I guess I'm sort of making it longer than I need to. So the main ones for me that I'm way going to be high on in the high buy-ins and low, Fleetwood, Spieth, and Griffin all I think are in awesome spots, and I would like to. Those are the ones I'll be playing the most from this range.
Fleetwood, who?
Fleetwood, Spieth, and Griffin.
Not so much Henley.
And Henley right after them, but all those 4. But Henley, the other 4 I have ahead of Henley a little bit.
Okay, so again, when you get into lineup construction, you're going to see where you get driven to, depending on what kind of Scheffler exposure you have. And usually, when you get into these ranges, it becomes hard to get too much of this stuff. But the 2 guys that you identified that just that fit perfectly were at the top of the range, Fleetwood and Henley. They like you said, they play stress-free last week, you know what I mean? Like they didn't have any emotional stuff for different reasons. Like Henley was great the whole day, but he it never really, he just does his thing, and Fleetwood didn't have to play the weekend for his own reasons because he didn't get there. But yeah, both very accurate golfers, and both very live for their usual 7th or 8th place finishes. The 2 guys I want to talk about were at the bottom of the range, and one was the guy you mentioned, was Ben Griffin. And this is like a stupid conspiracy theory I have. And again, like one day if this turns out to be the case, I will smile. But I really believe, not I would say really believe, because it's going to sound ignorant, that some of these like golf projections are just kind of like made up, like based on their salaries. Like if you told me like for real that Ben Griffin were like 9,300 instead of Straka, for example, I don't think that I think that he would look fine. You know what I mean? Like the guy does nothing but smash like every freaking week, and now he's 8,200. I mean, that's just, to me, that's like ridiculous, like if you put him at 9,200, I bet you he would be just as owned as if he were at 8,100.
Yep. I think you're right.
I mean, it's like a stupid thing to say, but
no, I agree with you.
But it's just ridiculous, And again, and the other guy, again, unfortunately, just because I'm seeing like 2% of him, I'm just not letting Hideki at 8,100 beat me with me only having 3%. I mean, that's just
my concern a little bit too.
That's just the way it is, And look, all the risk associated with Hideki is always the same, but the fact is he's 8,100 and no one's playing him, and that's going to be the end of it. So I like Griffin, I like Hideki. Now, as far as the guy I'm actually getting to, like when I run this stuff, wow, look at that third top owned golfer, tied for 3rd, 4th, and 5th is actually Ben Griffin. So I am actually putting the money where my mouth is as far as that one goes. So. And I don't think that's going to be particularly off the board. Right. I mean, he's got to be 15% owned at least, I would imagine.
Right.
So, yeah, I like him a lot this week.
Yeah, I just want to throw out one other guy's name, and I think Lowry, and whether or not you like him this week, I think Lowry would have been 25% owned if not for last week and all the visibility if at 8,300. I really do. Everything else sets up perfectly for him on this course. Just throwing that out there. I'm not saying that you have to play him. I'm just saying that's what it would have happened in my opinion. All right, 75 to 7,900, pretty barren range for me. Not one player over 10%. Of the ones I'm getting the most, Cameron Young is the highest owned one for me. Again, he had a long week last week, but this is he did shoot a 59 here last year, which is pretty awesome to do in a major tournament. And that was before he was bouncing back. He's been the good Ben Griffin now. Sungjae finished, I think, 5th here last year. He's had some good finishes here. So those would be my two favorites, but this is a range that I'm not getting. Oh, and I guess I'm getting to some of the Burger just because he projects so well. But really, I didn't have him marked on my list. It just sort of is happening naturally. So no real huge priorities for me in 75 to 7,900 range.
Yeah, I'm getting all the Burger. He's like my top owned guy.
I know everybody else. I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, he's the most popular. See, look, they've got him as like the third most popular golfer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm getting a bunch of that. I have him again, like as alongside of Griffin and Straka, and the second, and also pretty uber jam for me, like 25%, I guess 28% is Aaron Rye. He's another one that has done nothing for me since I've been
He's the
playing.
other one everyone's playing this week too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rye, Burger, definitely those two. I have over 20% of Siwoo Kim, you know, and these are the types of salaries that fit in with what's his name with Scheffler pretty nicely. The other guy, again, one of my heroes from Showdown a couple weeks ago, Maverick McNeely, getting that also. So all these guys just kind of fit as far as I'm concerned.
You got too many heroes now. You keep winning everything, so you got too many heroes. All right, I can understand that stuff. All right, so this might be the first time outside of the U.S. Open that I haven't heard like every analyst, everybody talking about how we have to play Luke Clanton all the time because the guy's like a god. They stopped sort of doing it, and again, I'm not really getting into much of him. I just wanted to throw that out there. This is another range that surprisingly I'm not overly into. I do really like Akshay. I think I can even up my minimum exposure on him. It feels like the right course for him, right? You know, and I feel like he can go out there and put up some numbers. I like Brian Harmon. I like JT Poston on these types of courses. And Tom Kim, who won this tournament last year, wasn't going to let go completely overlooked. And then Ryan Fox, who had a quiet but another solid week, and Denny McCarthy. All those guys, I think I probably end up around 10% on all those guys because I do like all of them quite a bit. It's more just about the range because I'm so overexposed to those other ranges. I just don't have as much room to do down here. So that's sort of what I came up with in this range. What do you got?
Yeah, not much for me in this range.
Somebody's got to win. We're on different. I mean, not in this exact one, but we are on a little different pages.
I will say that the top guy I have 20% of Jason Day, actually.
Dude, you got the chalk builds going on this week.
I guess so, huh? Yeah, that's what I'm getting right now is 20% of Jason Day. I'll rerun this.
He's a little bit too cheap at 7K here. That seems a little disrespectful.
But I mean, I can't listen. I have chalk guys, but I only have like 25% Scotty. You know, so
yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
So I have the balanced ones. What about under 7K?
I got a bunch. Again, I'll end up with more of this number. I really like Fitzpatrick. I think he's been good enough. And by the way, I do appreciate him sneaking his way into the cash line, into the cut line by birding the toughest hole on Friday because it made me the money in the 44-44 because I would not have cashed without that.
Oh, you cashed in that one?
Yeah, I cashed in that one.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I just had the Bryson part wrong, but I think everybody else did too. All right, so under 7K, I've got Fitzpatrick. I like Gracerman. I love Hoagie here. Hoagie also finished near the top here before. So those are the ones who were my highest owned. Bud Cauley, I think, bounces back here. I think these are reasonable. The one I don't have there yet, and I'm sort of debating how much of it I want, but I do like the Bezadenhout quite a bit. I'm getting to a bunch of the Davis Thompson, and I'm not asking for it. It's just forcing it in. Kevin Yu, great ball striker, and not especially long. Seems like a reasonable course for him. His putter's been also much better. And then Austin Eckroat down at 6,100. I'm actually going to up this now, be a little bit above the field on that. So those are my favorite ones. But as you guys know with me, I'm always going to spread out some ownership down at these lower levels. You know what though? I got to say one more thing. I just think that we might be making a mistake not playing Alex Noren now. So I forgot to change his projection. We're getting him on the bounce back. He would be more expensive. I think at 6,500, he's the one I probably end up with the most of in this range outside of maybe Fitz, maybe Hoagie.
What's the most you think you're gonna get of a guy under 7K this week?
I think I'll have at least 4 or 5 guys over 10%.
Okay, but not more, not that much. Okay.
I don't know if I'll have I wouldn't mind like
you don't love anybody enough to put like 25% or anything like that.
No,
right?
probably doesn't make the 20s for me.
Yeah.
I like Ryan Gerard too. I mean, there's a lot of guys, but there's a lot that I feel like I want sprinklings of. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm getting the top. My highest own is like 13%, and that's
that seems reasonable.
That's Nick Taylor right now.
Why didn't I get to more Taylor? Did I just forget to click his name?
I'm sure he's probably chalk.
I got 8.3. No,
it's fitting all the rest of my bills. It looks like, and then also the guy you mentioned, Ryan Gerard, and also the other guy you mentioned, the Kevin Yu, the 6,400 guy. So.
And let me just see. Yeah, I like the idea of spreading out a little bit more down here because I think there's a lot of variance with it.
All right, so I'm going to add one other thing to the game this week.
Okay.
And we're going to get to it as we get to it. It'll be at the very end. But to replace the not making the cut one because there's no cut. So let's just start with I guess who's winning. I guess.
Okay, it's frustrating because I really I actually have a feeling this could be the first Tommy Fleetwood win. I think this is what's good. I think it could happen this week. I'm curious what the outright numbers are on it because I do think Fleetwood. I think it's going to happen one of these days. This feels like a really good week for it to happen for him. So I'm in on him in general, but I think in order just to say who's going to win the tournament, I think I will save him for a little bit later. And I am actually going to say Xander. Even though I know you think he might steam, I do like Xander.
I'll go Oberg.
All right, cheats. Let's go.
All right, how about under 10K guys you haven't mentioned yet to make top 5?
Fleetwood.
Who am I gonna go with? I guess top 5 is tough. Boy, this guy. You know what? I'll freaking chalk donkey it. I'll go freaking Straka.
All right.
Ugh, terrible. Right. How about under 9K to make the top 10?
I'm sticking with my other 8K guy. Hopefully, because I'm hoping you're going to say the other one. I'm going to say Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, and I'll go Ben Griffin.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I have to. According to the rules of this game, I have to play these guys.
Under 8K to make top 20.
Under 8K to top 20. Now this is I only have one guy over 10% in this 7K range. I guess I could go down further, but I'm going to say Akshay.
And I'll go Berger.
Akshay and Berger. So I'm going to get my Berger exposure one way or another. Huh?
One way or another. Under 7, just a top performing under 7K guy.
Top performing under 7K for me, as much as I want to be a hero. I'm going to say Tom Hoagie with a little nod to Fitzpatrick. I like both those guys.
So you're going to say Hoagie with a nod to Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I'm saying like just throwing out there that I like Fitzpatrick for everybody else.
So then I'll say Fitzpatrick.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. This is like the John DeMott theory. And I'll give you the John DeMott history in a second. But I alluded to this concept earlier. So John DeMott is a guy I used to know from the racetrack, and what he would say to me, he's like, okay, one thing you should always do is like you bet this, and before the race with like 1 minute to post, you look at your tickets and you say, okay, what's going to come in that's going to make me really pissed, and then make sure you bet that too. Okay. So this is the question is, who do you have too little of that you're going to get really pissed that you don't have more of, so that maybe you end up you should play more of it.
There's two guys that stand out for me, so I'm going to say Sam Burns.
Okay, and I am going to just to force myself to do this. I'm gonna do this. Is definitely Rory.
All right. I like that idea.
So I got to get over the field on Rory and play like 6% of it.
Right. And we can't do it. Oh, yeah, we can't do the other part. So that I like that. That makes a lot of sense. And by the way, I almost said Hideki, but you mentioned him, so I'm probably going to give it.
I like that too.
Yeah, he's the other one. And he hung in there. He was after he shot like $1 million over on whether it's Saturday, I think it was. I thought he was just going to bail, but no, he stuck around. All right, man. Well, this will be a fun week, guys. Good luck. Give us a like on the video. Check out the packages and Sheets. Hopefully, you can carry the baseball success into the weekend. Hopefully, I can end on a strong note. So.